We are talking to celebrity author Mark Bego, whose 51st book is coming out called Macho Man. This is the one before. This is Billy Joe, the biography. So, Mark, thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us about your new book, Macho Man. What is it about? Could it be about the Village People?
Well, you know, it does kind of have that Village People ring to it. I have been friends with Randy Jones, the cowboy from the Village People, for 30 years now, and we have always wanted to do a book together. So what happened was we were trying to sell his autobiography, and we were invited out to dinner by a publisher, and she said, you know, we do more pop culture sort of things, and maybe we could fashion a book that had the Village People centered in the book that had to do with pop culture. So we bounced around a couple of ideas, and it became the seed that became Macho Man. And what it basically is a travelogue through gay pop culture, and it includes gay movies, gay songs, and of course the disco era, the 70s, and the Village People centered in the middle of it. So it's kind of like it covers all bases, basically.
Would you consider yourself a gay historian or a historian of gay studies?
Well, I'm a pop culture writer. I've been writing books since 1975. I started when I was about 5 years old.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yes, I was going to add that. Yeah.
My first book was The Captain and Tennille. So when your career starts out with The Captain and Tennille and Barry Manilow as your first two books, you can't not be a pop culturist of some sort. So this was kind of an extent. A lot of the books that I've done, of course, are of interest to the gay audience. I've done a Cher book, a Bette Midler book, 3 Madonna books, a Whitney Houston book. So what could be more natural than a gay pop culture book? And this is kind of what this grew into. So it's been fun to do and covers a lot of territory.
So let's talk about the Village People to start. I mean, there's so many people that you talk about. Are you friends with all the Village People or just with Randy?
Well, actually, I'm friends with all of them. I was the very first journalist to ever interview the Village People in 1978. And the reason being is I knew someone who worked for the production company, Can't Stop Music, which put together the Village People. And I was invited to be the very first journalist to interview them. And in fact, there's a section in the book that is taken from that very interview in 1978. And I've been friends with everybody, but Randy and I have been real close friends for a long time. At one point, we were roommates, and we've traveled around together. We've done a lot of things together, and we get along really well. So in the book, also, as you see when you have the book in your hands, there are little dialogues between Randy and I, kind of us bantering back and forth about things. So it's kind of a very natural progression of our friendship, with a lot of information that we feel that a lot of people don't really realize about gay pop culture.
So since you were friends with the Village People, can you set us straight on who is gay and who is straight in that group?
That's not up to me to do, because I want to do a real biography on everybody. I can safely say that Randy Jones is gay.
Right, because he has a lover, and you know his lover. Yeah. Okay.
And that is in the book.
Okay.
That is in the book.
And then, okay, so were you on the set for Can't Stop the Music?
Actually, I was here in Los Angeles when they were filming it. I wasn't on the set, but I was around while they were filming it. Mm-hmm. So I would hear some of the things that happened on the set that day, and I was in touch with everybody.
Tell us about the mooning incident.
The mooning incident. They had a press fight, or supposedly a press fight, with Valerie Perrine, and they decided to have a dueling mooning session on the set of Can't Stop the Music. And everyone dropped their drawers and tried to out-moon each other. Well, you've got 6 Village People and Valerie Perrine, so you take your pick as the winner. It's kind of a draw. We'll just say it's kind of a draw.
And how did that movie get a PG rating when we were showing Valerie Perrine's breasts and full frontal male nudity, right?
Yes, you have to look real quickly, and after you buy the DVD in freeze frame, you can see full frontal male nudity. I don't know how they got that by. It was 1979, 1980, so a lot of things were going by the censors at that point, that there was so much else going on in the set, I guess, that they just let that go. Well, what's a little male nudity? It's always good for a movie.
Tell us about Andy Warhol.
Oh, Andy. I used to run into Andy all the time in New York. In fact, everyone says that certain people will go to the opening of an envelope. Well, Andy was one of those people. You would always run into Andy.
And you know him on a first-name basis. I love that. Andy.
Well, I knew him over a number of years, and he was always very friendly. Not really warm. He kind of had like a facade in front, or like a piece of plate glass in front of him. You did get to meet him, and he was friendly, but he didn't volunteer a lot. And he always had glasses glasses on, or usually had glasses on, so you didn't break through the glass facade of Andy Warhol. But he was an interesting character on the scene. You knew it was a happening party if you saw Andy in his white wig floating around in the party.
White wig?
Yes, he would put that kind of grayish white wig on top of his hair, and sometimes I think he wore it backward.
I don't think I've ever seen him without that. I always just
No,
thought...
you always thought that was not his hair at all. It was definitely a hairpiece that he plopped on top of his head.
Whoa.
None of us ever saw him in public without his wig. So he was quite a character back then.
Whoa. So was Studio 54 as glamorous and decadent as it's written up to be?
Yes. Can I just say yes?
You were there.
I was there. I was the nightlife editor for a New York City magazine called Q, C-U-E, not as opposed to Q, the letter Q,
right,
which is a British magazine. Q magazine, I had all the discos, all the nightclubs, all the piano bars, all the jazz clubs, so I covered everything. So one of the things I went to was the opening of Studio 54. My date was CCH Pounder from the TV show The Shield,
yes,
and several other movies. She's done Baghdad Cafe and several
Great
other
actress.
things. Wonderful actress. She's done a lot of characters in a lot of movies. She was my date for Studio 54. We danced next to Cher, which was a big thrill. I was like, oh my God, there's Cher. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. She had a cowboy hat on, and all the cameras were following her. So I'm sure Cece and I are in some of the photos there. But Studio 54, because it fell into the realm of what I was covering, I was there on a weekly basis for different parties. I was always invited to things. And although, of course, it's famous for people standing outside trying to get into Studio 54, I was one of the ones who was whisked in, as a
wow,
VIP. So it was kind of fun, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of decadent fun. In fact, I would give anything for another night at Studio 54 the way it was. I don't know how we can time tunnel my way back there, but it really was quite dramatic.
If Andy were alive today, do you think his perception would be as outrageous and as avant-garde as it was then?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think had Andy lived longer, he would be involved in more and more pop culture and would be exploiting more images and being more outrageous. It's such a shame that we lost him at such an early time, but all the prints that I have are valued very highly because he's not here, but I wish he was here. I wish he was here to enjoy the 21st century.
On page 45 of your book, you mentioned pretty good.
You did your homework.
I did my homework. Yes, you mentioned the rumor of Rock Hudson marrying Jim Nabors. So tell us about the repercussions then, and if something like that happened today with two male stars, what do you think the repercussions would be?
Well, of course, back then, this is the 70s, and although there was a lot of loosening up of morals in the 70s, for middle America and people who would go see a Rock Hudson movie or who would watch Jim Nabors on television, this was just shockingly scandalous to middle America. And it was a rumor that was circulated in the tabloids, and we know the tabloids. We love our tabloids.
Yes, we do, yeah.
And it was something that they both were very embarrassed by. I mean, who knew that 30 years later, the reality of possibly, gay marriage being legalized in all 50 states, we cross our fingers, could be a reality. But back then it was like, oh no, that's just ridiculous. Two men marrying each other. That was just unheard of back then. So I think it really kind of ruined Jim Nabors' career as far as he was doing TV specials and different things. And they really felt that was a bad light that he was shown in.